Yo, what's up, guys? It's Ace-Cel. It's been a while, but I have to answer the question on everyone's mind. Where's Ace-Cel? I have been streaming on twitch.tv/Acel. Go follow me there. I have to give a big shout out to my Mexican fanbase. I don't know where the fuck you guys came from, but my biggest shout out goes to Pablo Sanchez. Thank you guys so much for 16 subscribers. My YouTube play button came in the mail the other day, and I couldn't believe it. I can't wait to deliver more quality content to you guys in the future.
It was a normal day in Gravity Falls, Oregon. Well, as normal as Gravity Falls gets, anyways. Dipper Pines was reading his book, and Mabel, his twin sister, was wondering what he was doing. Dipper, are you going to keep your nose buried in that strange book of yours all summer? You gotta go out, have an adventure, Mabel exclaimed. Not now, Dipper said quietly. I'm trying to decode this. He was looking at a, crypt, a cryptogram that said XS alpha QB QXZL YBII. Dipper was officially stumped. He could not figure out what it meant, and it seemed very mysterious to him. Grunkle Stan is going to take us to the diner for lunch, Dipper, Mabel exclaimed. Dipper, however, was not in the mood for the diner. He was publicly humiliated the last time he went, and the type of he thought the food wasn't very good anyways. Mabel, I don't want to go to the diner, Dipper said solemnly. I want to go somewhere else. But there is really nothing else in town unless you count the Taco Bell near the forest, Mabel replied. Taco Bell? Dipper's ears picked up. He had never eaten at Taco Bell before, and ever since last week, he had a craving for Mexican food for some reason. Why don't we go to Taco Bell today? Dipper asked. Taco Bell? Grunkle Stan questions. Why do you want to go there? It smells like the bathroom when it gets clogged. I heard my I had my heart set on pancakes, Mabel moaned. Listen, you can go to Taco Bell if you want to, but don't come crying to me when you smell like expired onions. Fine, I will, Dipper said harshly. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Uncle Stan said. But as he was exiting for the mystery shack, the door hit him on the way out. Ah ha 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 ha, said Uncle Stan. He was laughing. So, anyways, Mabel and Uncle Stan went to the diner, while Dipper tried to find the Taco Bell. He had brought with him his book and a couple of bucks. But finding the Taco Bell was harder than he had previously thought. He had been looking around town for what he seemed like days. The mystery book wasn't helping him either, until he saw a flicker of a sign in the forest. He went into the forest. Why would there be a Taco Bell in the forest? Dipper asked himself. After hiking for an hour, Dipper finally got to the Taco Bell, but it sure didn't look like any Taco Bell he'd ever seen. It was surrounded by a barrage of giant oak trees in an open field, completely different from the rugged terrain of the Oregon forest. The open field was covered with at least 3 layers of pine needles, which got the attention of Dipper. He stuck his hand into the pine needles. Ow! Dipper shouted. A pine needle poked him. It hurts. The restaurant, Taco Bell, looked like a silo, sort of. Well, it was very cylindrical. The outside had rusty picnic tables, and it looked like no one had used them at all. Dipper walked up to the restaurant's door. Should I go up in there? Dipper asked himself. I'm sorry. I'm starting to have second thoughts. Why is there a small, desolate Taco Bell in this forest, miles from the nearest road? But I guess it's my only option. Mabel and Crunklestan are probably done with lunch right now. And there they were. Mabel wondered why Dipper hadn't come back yet, but Crunklestan didn't give a damn. So Dipper entered the restaurant, but he was relieved to see that the interior was normal, except for its high ceiling. There was also no customers inside. But Dipper thought that was normal, considering how the franchise was so isolated. He went up to the counter. There was only one cashier working the register. A very old, slightly deaf, bored out of his skull cashier. Dipper decided what he wanted to order, then approached the register. Excuse me, I'll have. We only got tacos, the cashier interrupted. Okay, I guess I'll taco then, Dipper said. What did you say? The cashier yelled. I said I want a taco. Dipper yelled back. Okay then, the cashier said. Then, then went in and back for a few minutes. When he came out, he was carrying Dipper's taco. It'll be $1, the cashier said. Dipper gave him the money, and he went to sit down at the least grimiest table. He bit into the hot, spicy, juicy taco filled with thick, pure meat, mild, tantalizing black beans, and sour, fluffy, sour cream. He enjoyed a single bite of that perfectly cooked taco and still tasted it in his mouth after he swallowed it. But as he was about to bite into it a second time, he felt a churning movement inside his body, something that he had felt often. Oh, Digger said. Then he rushed to find a laboratory. Man, that really went through me, Dipper said to himself. For some reason, the bathrooms were hidden in a corner, far from the counter, and far from the table he was sitting at. When he walked in, he found that the bathrooms were surprisingly clean for a fast food restaurant anyway, and Dipper found this suspicious. All the stalls were full, and no one was using their urinals. But, right on cue, someone walked at one of the stalls. Dipper didn't pay much attention to who was walking out, but he was wearing all black and had a plastic bag with him. Dipper just had to go. Chapter 2. But as he was about to bite into a second time, he kept reading the same shit again. I forgive me. Am I? Oh, what the why is it repeating? Whatever. But as he was, right here. Unfortunately, he didn't make it in time. He checked his pants and found the worst of all. Diarrhea, Dipper said. Yeah. He was about to leave the stall when he noticed a bulge in his pants. He touched the bulge, and once he touched it, he knew exactly what it was. It was an erection. He found himself completely aroused after touching it and started to do it some more. Eventually, he was ready to hardcore masturbate, but he didn't know what was arousing him, but he knew he was aroused. He took off his blue shorts and his soiled underwear, revealing his medium-sized, but not small, penis. The tip was bright and red, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Dipper started to yank his Johnson harder and faster. 5-incher was getting really pumped. Dipper's soiled hands started to feel bits of pre-cum on his dry fingers. Eventually, the medium-sized thing couldn't take anymore and burst in an all explosion of cum. Cum got all over the walls and the toilet. And Dipper felt proud. He had cleaned himself for the first time, but he was upset that it was not over Wendy. No, Dipper thought. All this is not enough for me. I need to realize all of this. Chapter 3. What with his erection still active, Dipper began yanking his penis again. It was much quicker, and Dipper cummed quicker. It was a bigger release than the last time, and they began turning Dipper's seed. Dipper felt more proud than last time, his heart about to burst from all the droplets of cum falling down from the ceiling. He felt as happy as he felt on the day of the first snowfall of the year. He stuck out his tongue to taste the cum, shiny from all the faulty fluorescent lighting in the bathroom. He tasted it, and he thought it was one of the best tasting things in the world. Better than the largest chocolate bar, better than the rarest pig, and better than the taco he was having earlier. By now, he couldn't stop. He couldn't leave now and miss out on his great masturbation adventure. He wanted to taste the cum. He scraped a handful of it off the stall. He put it in his dirty, wet mouth. He grabbed another, and another, and another, and another. He was getting more aroused by consuming the cum, and he released another load. So that's where it's all coming from, Dipper said to himself. Cum all over his face and teeth. Dipper came up with a solution again, a more hardcore adult masturbation experience. He was going to put it into action. He tilted his head down, sat down on the covered ground, grabbed his Harding Johnson, and stuck it in his mouth. Once it was firmly in, Dipper began to suck on the very hard rod. He sucked it like the lollipop he got at the county fair a while back. It tastes a lot like it too. The legs were so expertly over his shoulder that he could have been a gymnast. The more he sucked on his hard dick, the more aroused his legs shook. Eventually, just when he was going to give out, he came in his mouth. It was the best thing he had ever experienced, and he kept on performing fellatio on himself. As he was
Did he just say? Come on,
no,
don't act like you know.
as he was stimulating himself orally, he accidentally fell over to his side. He broke from his penis and cummed on the floor. The floor was covered in so much of Dipper's cum that he started to make a snow angel in cum, or a cum angel. He was eating some in the process. Then he looked to his side, and immediately became so hard that the red tip was touching his short pubic hair. He saw what was causing. He saw his underwear, covered in dark brown feces. He held up his underwear, which is covered in a cum-filled floor, and marveled at its erotic beauty. The feces were so beautifully ejaculated, so smoothly, and in sticky brownness, so perfect they felt in Dipper's white hands. He wanted his shit. He held down the brown underwear like a fish on a lure, and put his sticky white lips onto the brown feces. His tongue was rubbing the crap all over his tidy whities, making his mouth all a brownish white mess. He was biting into the shit and sucked it in his mouth. It was more stimulating than ever before. He now knew that he didn't need Wendy, or Mabel, or any of the girls in Gravity Falls. All he needed was a big pile of shit. He took a scoop of the feces and began to spread it all over his dick. Every time he spread the crap, he was getting more and more aroused. Once his dick was completely brown, he came again. It filled up all the spots in the stall that weren't covered up in Dipper's cum. Once again, Dipper took big scoops of cum and consumed it in large gulps. Now Dipper had to put the brown sticky feces all over his penis again. And boy, did he do a good job. The brown stuff was all over external genitals and his testicles. He had cummed a few times here and there. Now, his beautiful brown genitals needed to be cleaned, but Dipper didn't have any cleaning supplies, so he had to shuck the shit off. He wrung his erection up to his mouth and began to suck. This time, he made it very clear to lick the feces off with his tongue, and as soon as the tongue touched his dick, he cummed. He was having the most fun he had ever had in the bathroom stall. I forget who he was, where he lived, where he was, or what he was eating. All that was on his mind was the sweet cum. He just thought of a great idea. To be continued.
Okay,
Chapter 4.
let's go.
I don't. I have not slept for 2 days because of this. For this.
Well, that's unfortunate now, isn't it?
Oh, okay. That's beginning of 4. Oh my god.
It gets better, don't worry.
Okay. Dipper took a scoopful of diarrhea and a scoopful of cum and put it in the toilet. He flushed it, but before it went all the way down, he grabbed a wet pile of shit and cum and stuck it in his mouth. Dipper was consuming all the shit, cum, and toilet water, and tasted great. He kept on doing it for God knows how long, and one of the times he hit his head against the toilet rim. Silly old Dipper. Dipper's brain must have knocked out of place at that time, because this time, instead of putting the chewing gum in his food hole, he started to lather it on his penis again. He wanted more of his Johnson, but that would be a fatal mistake. Once it was covered again, he put it on his mouth and began sucking, but did it too hard. As he was sucking, coming, he accidentally bit on his dick. As soon as he tasted the blood, he broke out of a coitus and saw his lacerated penis. He saw a mix of blood and coming out of it, like lava, and his erectile muscle pointing out. Dipper grabbed it and grimaced in pain. He winced at it and looked horrified. He snapped out of it all and tried to figure out a solution to the castration. He put on some diarrhea and cum on it, but that didn't stop the bleeding. I want to point out that he's spelling diarrhea every time he writes. Okay. Dipper spit out the piece of dick that he bit off and tried to reapply it, but it didn't work. No matter how many times he tried to reattach it, they all failed. He put more of his reproductive fluids on the castration, but they only made the penis. But they only made the penis swell up, like the Goodyear blimp. Dipper was licking the blood off to try to stop it, but the blood was coming faster than he could lick. He was now in ultimate pain. Felt nothing like this. He screamed as loud as he could. Felt like no one could hear him. He was screaming louder and louder, saying, "Help! I bit my dick off." He was going insane. He started to bang against the wall, screaming "Help!" as loud as he could yell. After a full 5 minutes, the large mix of cum, blood, and pieces on the floor, he was banging his head against the stall. The banging was louder than the loudest thunderstorm. And yet no one came for help. Dipper was alone in the bathroom, alone and still, alone with his beloved dick. Now, to near death. And unfortunately, he was near death. To be continued. Chapter fucking 5.
There's more.
After one final blow to the head, the now screaming Dipper was now as silent as Christmas Eve. He fell to the floor. Eyes turned skyward and fell in a mix of his own blood, cum, and feces. At the mystery shack, Mabel was feeling very worried about Dipper, so she went off and tried to find him. She went off in the forest first. She knew where it was, and surprisingly, got there in less time than Dipper. As she entered the newly cleaned doors, she immediately noticed the once bitten taco on one of the tables, and immediately knew it was Dipper's. Mabel rushed to the men's bathroom. She liked to use their urinals, and rushed into a random stalls. It was her brother. Mabel looked at how messy the stall was, and how it was used to do the deed. Her pink sneakers were sticky from stepping into the reddish-brown mess of fluids. She walked around the messy stall for a bit. The sun was hardest sight she could imagine. Dipper's corpse. Mabel was welled up in tears at the sight of it and began to cry. She was crying. She sat down in a pile of the blood, feces, and cum, and looked at Dipper's lifeless face. It was beautiful, as his smooth facial features complemented his circle of cum around his lips. "Oh, Dipper," Mabel said it through her ears. Let me, let me, let me clean, let me clean the white stuff off your lips. Mabel brought Dipper's head up to hers, and she kissed him, pulling out of the kiss. Mabel enjoyed it, so she kissed him again. She didn't want to let go of Dipper, not now, not when he just died. He wasn't her brother, after all. She held Dipper's naked corpse in her arms, and she felt a tingling feeling in herself, and a secret, dirty side. No one would, no one would care if we just did it, right? He is dead, and I would know in this restroom stall, Mabel thought. She immediately came up with an answer. She pulled Dipper's head to her head and kissed him again, only it was a French kiss. Once Mabel was done, she put the body on the floor. Mabel got down on the fluid covered floor too. She started to go kiss crazy frenzy with Dipper. That made it. What the fuck? That made it look like Dipper was alive. Tongue was tongue went into Dipper's deceased mouth, scraping the feces and come off the roof of Dipper's mouth. Mabel was shaking even more now that her tongue was touching Dipper's. She unzipped her jeans, slowly slid them off, and then threw them at the wall. They were stuck there from the cum. Mabel revealed her nice, clean, exposed, virgin vagina. She dip, she took Dipper's corpse, not noticing the eternally bleeding penis, and brought it closer to the cervix. She rubbed her clitoris for arousal purposes before she stuck it in, and once the dick was firmly in, she finally felt a joy in her life. Chapter 6. She loved the feeling of losing it to her dead brother's body and started to get the oddest feeling. She lost it. She finally lost it. She squealed in happiness and started to French kiss Dipper harder. Her tongue almost touched Dipper's uvula. She kept on holding on his lacerated dick in her vagina and sloshing her tongue all around Dipper's mouth. She kept pulling in and out with Dipper's stick. Blood was getting on her urethral walls. Not noticing one bit. She did not want to leave the body. Not now. She would kill herself if it could mean they'd be in coitus forever. If only Dipper could kiss her back. After what seemed like hours, it wouldn't fit in. Mabel finally looked down at the now pretty messed up penis. The computer it just said you've been browsing for 2 hours now. Mabel couldn't look away from it. It was now swollen to the size of her head, a whole mix of rainbow colors, and still spewing lifeless cum. Mabel vomited on it, which only made it worse. It grew bigger and bigger. "Oh, Dipper," she said softly. Then Mabel started to scream. She was horrified at the sight of it and started to barf again. Excuse me, barf again. She tried to put a giant mix of blood, cum, vomit, and feces on a dick, but it didn't work. She tried to suck it all off, but found herself enjoying the sucking and the taste of Dipper's penis blood. She kept on sucking, tasting the blood, and touching and fondling Dipper's dead erectile muscle. She was ecstatic. She was more happy than she had ever been. It is officially morning now. More happy than she was before. As she was squealing with delight, the stall door started to open with a crack. Mabel took notice of this. "Huh?" she asked. The door started to open more. It wasn't locked. Mabel started to get nervous. She didn't want to go to jail for necrophilia. She was only a child. Bit off more than she could chew. She got too ahead of herself.
Ah,
After after lusting after lusting after her twin brother for so. If it was the police, she had no hope. She hoped it was just another Taco Bell employee who would listen to her and help her out. The door finally burst open. Standing in front of it was a man dressed in black. He had a Taco Bell logo sewn on the left of his fleece jacket. He was wearing squeaky shoes that squeaked across the bottom floor. He was wearing dark sunglasses. The mysterious man walked up to the two of them slowly. Mabel stood up on her feet, fear and blood on her face. The man stared at Mabel for a long time. So he said finally, "Are you supposed to be in this bathroom, young lady?" Chapter 7. Mabel was shaking hard now. She turned to face Dipper's naked, violated, dead body. Turned to face the man again. Mister, I didn't intend to do this. I intended to do this with my brother, Mabel said, shaking her with tears in her eyes. The man brought himself closer to Mabel's face. Sir, you're in my personal space. Mabel tried to manage. The man was inspecting a red spot on Mabel's cheek. For several seconds, the man touched the spot, trailed his finger in it, and put the finger in his mouth. Blood, the man whispered to himself. What did you say, sir? Mabel asked him, not understanding what he was saying. Little girl, do you know what that was on your cheek? The man asked. Mabel repeated what the mysterious man did to her cheek and said back to him, it's blood. And with the blood being on your cheek, have you developed, shall we say, a desired taste for it? The man asked back. Mabel did not notice the retractable chisel in his right hand. Um, uh, yes, I didn't mean to. I just. Shh. The man quieted her. If you like the addicting taste of it, why didn't you say so? And without warning, the man cut across her chest with the chisel. She screamed at the pain of it, blood starting to pour out of the diagonal cut fast, almost covering her stomach. You can look that up. Your blood probably tastes better than that kid's, the man said, pointing the dipper. Then the man gave another cut across her face. She screamed again, louder this time. Now you can get the blood close to your face, and just to make sure you're silent. The man then slit across the neck. She could not scream this time. The man went into her neck and pulled out 3 vocal cords. The man stretched
I don't think you
the
can
cords
pull
out.
out individual vocal cords.
Don't don't worry about it. And he roped. He jumped the rope with them while slashing Mabel across the face several times. But her face was cut so many times that her nose fell off. The man decided that it was time for the scalping. He took out a bigger knife and slammed it right above Mabel's eyebrows. The man gripped the knife's handle, still in her face, and began to make a deep cut. The man put all his strength into it because he decided to make the hardest part first. He tried to do it right on the skin, but sadly did not do the job he had liked. Mabel's head was now topless, the top of her skull exposed, violently cut so that you could see her brain inside the skull. The pieces of muscle and flesh were still attached to Mabel's hairy scalp, so the man cut them off. The scalp was now as thin as skin, still full of Mabel's hair. He hung the sculpt. What? He hung the sculpted scalp up on the door. It would be a surprise, something he kept for himself. Now, the man prepared for the rest of the body. There's another chapter. Fucking hell. It's the final chapter. Final chapter. What he wanted to do next was just make it rain. Not water as you make it think. He wanted to arrange something else. He got down to Mabel's blood, covered slashed chest, and grabbed her not fully developed breasts, and began to cut off Mabel's nipples. Once he was gone, he was done. The blood started to come out, like all the faithful gates. He was amazed by the sight of the fountain of blood, and he was able to dance around in the stall, stepping on all the fluids that were on the floor. When the blood was starting to flow a little less slowly, the man moved on to the legs. The man hung Mabel's nipples next to his skull. The nips were his price too. He started to cut Mabel's legs. He started to cut faster than a race car driver on his.
Damn, look at that.
He started to cut faster than a race car driver on a smooth asphalt track. The cuts kept on appearing on her kneecaps until the cap bone was exposed. By that time, her lower legs and her body were only attached by a thin string of cartilage. Then the guy moved on to her toes, with the knife as sharp as a knife. He cut off every one of her little toes off. Mabel's body was losing so much blood that he started to flatten out. The place where it was mostly come out of was her toes. The toe blood was making a sea of red on the floor. Man, now with his Taco Bell fleece jacket splattered with red on it, now dug the knife into Mabel's left foot. He began to make another cut similar to what he did to her scalp, and began to cut the skin off her foot. The cut was much better than what he did to the scalp. He did the same thing to the other foot, and then hung the skin up next to the scalp. Mabel's feet were now just a big mess of flesh, muscle, blood, nerves, creamy buttery. Mabel's face was now completely exposed to all the cuts she was getting. The mouth hanging open like something happened. Hold on. Okay. Where am I? The mouth hanging open like a gabbing person. The blood was already covering her chest. Since the man actually had a soul, he didn't want to subject the little girl to the misery she was about to endure. He took the long knife and stabbed in the middle of her chest, where her heart was. Blood. Sorry. Blood poured out of it more than her cut off nipples did. Once most of the blood was done spewing, the man got down near Mabel's bloody vagina. He very carefully took his knife, got down near the cervix, stuck the knife's blade up the hole, while in Mabel's cocky cave. The man was rotating the knife, cutting up the walls of Mabel's egg chamber, the tip of it finally inside it, and very carefully snipped every one of Mabel's fallopians. It was a hard job. He had to be very careful. He had done it many times before, but today wasn't his best day. He accidentally slit some of the sides of Mabel's vagina, cutting into the muscle surrounding it. The man was very embarrassed. Shit. Hopefully no one will notice that, he said to himself. He took the knife out of Mabel's home, with ovaries and two fallopians on a blood-covered blade. The man got out a plastic trash bag, scraped the knife on it, making the contents go into the bag. But since the knife's handle was covered in more blood than it usually was, he accidentally let it slip, and it dug into Mabel's right shoulder. Perfect, the man said anonymously. The man got a pair of vinyl gloves and put them on his hands. He gripped the knife tightly, wanting a deeper cut than he had before. After a while, after digging and digging and digging, The man's knife got, thro- got through to the other side. Once the man saw the job he did, he threw the arm in the trash bag. He felt great pride. It felt that he could easily achieve his goal now. So he went to the other side of Mabel's nearly skinned body and began to cut that arm off. It was easier to do than the other one, surprisingly. And once he was done with that, he threw that arm into the garbage bag. Mabel's body was now almost flat due to all the blood loss. The man tasted some of it and thought that he shouldn't get a jar for later. Now for the legs. The man did the same with their legs, and they felt like they were getting easier to cut off each time. The legs were off, and the man threw it in the bag. Mabel's body was flat now. Almost all the blood from her body was gone. Embracing Mabel's dismembered, dismembered body, he hugged it, licked the remaining blood off, put the body in the bag. The man now had just noticed Dipper on the floor and figured he must have caused all this on the walls. Another one couldn't hurt, the man said to himself and started to cut off Dipper's appendages. He did it in the same order and the same manner as Mabel's. It was done quickly and put all of it in the bag as well. Now it was time to clean up. As you can imagine, the bathroom stall was a big mess of fluids. The man got out of a big chisel, stirred the chisel to come off the walls and into the bag. It took a long while, about 2 or 3 hours. Once it was done, he needed to clean the floor. So he went outside the stall and got a mop that he had with him the whole time. He mopped the whole mess of things up on the floor and into the bag until the floors and wall looked respectable for a fast food bathroom anyway. The man got out his toilet cleaner and cleaned the toilet because it was way more messier than the stall itself. After a few minutes, the toilet cleaning was over, and the stall was as clean as a new car. It smelled like it too. The man left the bathroom, and the stall waited, ready for its next victim. The man got out of the bathroom and went to the back kitchen of the Taco Bell. He got a near machine. It was an odd looking machine. It had a crank on the side, a funnel on top, and something shaped like a taco on the other side, near a conveyor belt. Why do I have to do everything myself? The man questioned. He hung his bloodstained jacket and glasses, revealing his Taco Bell employee uniform. It was spotless. The man took the bag and one by one started to put body parts into the funnel. How long is this fucking chapter? Once the bag was half empty, he kept putting on he kept on putting more parts in. Only this time he turned the crank. Once the bag was empty, out popped out 2 tacos. They weren't really tacos, really. They were actually human body parts, shape of tacos. They went down the conveyor belt. The employee, using spray cans, began to spray the body parts. Once they got to the Taco Bell issue paper at the end of the conveyor belt, they looked like genuine tacos. The man grabbed one of the tacos, wrapped in it in tissue paper, and went to the front of the counter. He handed it to the old man cashier, then went back into the depths of the kitchen. Here's your tacos, sir, the cashier said to the fat customer. You're welcome, Seuss said, handing the cashier the money. The end.
That was amazing.
You want you want to be quiet?
Yeah.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's
Bro.
That's all I got. That's all I gotta say.
That's all. You just slap it in there and upload it.